Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Champions Chat. Sorry about the short break, but I was spending a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to do this video because a lot changed when the gym sets came out. It actually gave us two formats, and one of them is actually a really deep, skilled, complex, wide variety format, and the other is just the worst format probably in the history of the game. I don't know what a lot of the standard ones from 2011 to 2019 looked like. But for me, this was the worst format in the game, and that was just straight up base to gym, no restrictions, unlimited. Let's talk about that first and why it was so bad. A lot of cards came out in the gym sets that simply allowed you to go through your deck on turn one at a 100% rate. Base to rocket, you could go through your deck and do stuff a fairly large amount of the time, but sometimes you would just stall out or stop. And then when you went through your deck, there wasn't all these broken things that you could do. In Gym, they exist now. The first two cards I want to talk about are Erica and Misty's Wrath. Erica is draw three cards, up to three cards. Let's get that blown up for you. You may draw up to three cards, and your opponent may draw up to three cards. So it's just like a bill on steroids. Just draw three cards, your opponent can choose to do it, choose not to. Usually when they draw their cards, either it doesn't matter or it's detrimental to them. We'll talk about that with a later on deck. But yeah, this is just one of the first cards that allows you to just accelerate through your deck. Draw your comm searches, draw item finders, your oaks, and keep it going. The other draw card introduced is Misty's Wrath. Misty's Wrath. Where are you at? Alright. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose 2 of those cards and put them in your hand. Discard the rest. So it's like a mini oak. So now you can play 4 oak and 4 of these. So you're just looking at the top 7, you're picking the 2 that's going to go with your strategy and discarding the rest. So between this, oak, Erica, Bill, comm search, item finder, etc., you're going to be going through your entire deck turn 1, if that's what you want to do. And unfortunately, there is a deck that exists that does want to go through its entire deck turn 1, and then just puts you in an impossible spot. And that is the Wiggly Trapper deck. Let's talk about the combo. So we saw the Erica, draw 3 cards, and then your opponent can draw up to 3 cards if they want to. They usually will, no reason not to, unless they know they're playing against the Vending Machine Haunter deck, and we'll talk about that one later. But for now, let's talk about regular American straight base to gym. So what card was that we were about to look up? Oh, let's start with the combo. The 3-card combo is Imposter Oak's Revenge, Rocket Sneak Attack, and the Rocket's Trap. So let's look at Revenge first. So once you Erica, Bill, get your setup, let them build their hand. The first thing we're going to do is play Imposter Oak's Revenge. Discard a card from your hand. When you do, your opponent shuffles in and draws 4. So now you got this massive hand, went through your deck, and your opponent is at 4 cards. Next, we're going to play a Rocket Sneak Attack. Look at your opponent's hand. If he or she has any trainer cards, choose one of them. Your opponent shuffles it into their deck. So they were at 4 cards. Now they're going to be at 3 because they're most likely drawing a trainer off 4 cards. And if not, that's still a good thing for you anyways. So they were at a bunch from Erica. They were at 15. Now they're at 4. Now they're at 3. And finally, the Rocket's Trap. Flip a coin. If heads, choose up to 3 cards at random from your opponent's hand. Your opponent shuffles those cards into his or her deck. So they went from 15 cards to 4 cards to 3 cards, and now they are at 0 cards. They have their basic Pokemon out. You get to do everything you want, and they don't even get to play the game. But wait, what if they top deck? Oh, we have some of that too. Mankey. Card nobody ever used, actually came back years later and is useful. Pokemon Power Peak. Once during your turn, you may look at one of the following: the top card of either player's deck, a random card from your opponent's hand, or one of the prizes. So, you put their hand at 0, you peek to see what their top card is. If it's nothing, you just proceed to beat them. If it's something, you get to play Chaos Gym. Chaos Gym, Stadium card. Stadium cards are a new, pretty interesting mechanic brought in from the Gym series, and they still stuck around today. I like Stadium cards. That was one of the good things that came from the Gym sets. Any additional mechanics that offer, variety are pretty healthy for a game. But this one was the opposite of that. This was the bad one. This is the one that kind of helped to ruin the game in this era. Whenever a player plays a trainer card other than a stadium card, he or she flips a coin. If heads, that player can't. If heads, that player plays the card normally. If tails, the player can't play that card. If the card isn't put into play, the player's opponent may use that card instead. If he or she does everything required in order to play that card. Either way, the card goes in its owner's discard pile. So Chaos Gym. Anytime you try to play a trainer, flip a coin. If heads, it works. If tails, your opponent gets to use it. So we took their hand from 15 to 4 to 3 to 0. We peeked at the top card of their deck. Most of the time, they're just going to lose right there. But if for somehow they got the oak on top, we drop the Chaos Gym. And then they have to flip, and then tails, they just lose the next turn anyways. So just a very, very flippy, degenerative format. Whoever goes first is going to win 99% of the time in this format. Either they're going to get Erica, hand disrupted, or they're going to get Erica, and either Psyduck or Gas lead. Psyduck, as we all remember from Fossil? Yeah, from Fossil. Headache, your opponent can't play trainer cards during his or her next turn. So they're going to play all their trainers, do their massive setup, and they're going to headache you, and then you just can't do anything. You got this massive hand, and you can't do anything back. And then they'll eventually get Dark Vileplume out, or whatever strategy they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to do some pseudo trap where they kind of play a few IOR and trap. Just a disaster. Even worse is when we allow vending machine promos. This is a format that we play on TCG1 that Jason's really into the Japanese stuff. Like whatever was legal in Japanese is legal in our sets. So when we play base to Fossil, or I'm sorry, base to Rocket, he lets Super Energy Retrieval play because that was a promo in Japan. When we played base to Neo, we played with the Chansey and the Slowking Erratas, so those two decks are dead. And when we play base to Jim, he plays with the vending machine cards because those were legal at the time. They're the motherland, so I guess we just go off their rules. It is what it is. But they have some pretty broken cards as well for this format that do the same thing. Let's look at Ghastly. Oh look, it's Psyduck's Headache for a colorless and a free retreater and fighting resistance. Frighten, your opponent can't play trainer cards during his or her next turn. Okay, no big deal. So what? Oh, it's a big deal. Because it evolves into Haunter. Haunter, 70 hit points, 1 psychic, Poltergeist. Look at your opponent's hand. This attack does 10 damage times the number of trainer cards in their hand. So, you Erica, let them draw, headache them with Ghastly. Then next turn you get your Pokemon Breeder, Dark Vileplume, Haunter, and the game just ends because your opponent has a massive hand with at least 10 trainers in it, and you're doing 1 psychic, knock out the defending Pokemon, and that can't play trainers. Completely busted. If you play first, you can't really ever lose. It's too good. Even if they play Muck, you can just play Gust of Winds, and Gust just knocks out Muck in 1 hit with the Poltergeist. Really, really degenerative, flippy format, and I really hated it. When we played it, it was different. We would play Rocket Zapdos a lot, and kind of these setup decks. We would occasionally play the trap decks, but we kind of understood it was like a little bit taboo to show up to a tournament with a trap deck and just try and beat somebody turn 1 because it could backfire. We were really big into having a very high win percentage and consistency. And those decks going second, if they know you're playing it, if you go second with a trap deck and they know you're playing it, you're just done. They're gonna oak comp, put 4 Chanseys on their bench, and just you could never ever knock all that stuff out. So very flip-based format. Whoever's going first is just typically winning. Another card that just completely ruined it. Erica's Jigglypuff. This was like the super degenerative card because people would play decks just based around this. 2 colorless. Okay, there we go. 2 colorless. If the defending Pokemon has no damage counters on it, this attack does 40 damage. If it has any damage counters on it, it does 10. So you would just play the Misty's Wrath, the Bills, the Comp Searches, and if they ever opened with a 70 hit point basic, it's just double colorless, Oak and Wrath a bunch of times, get 3+ powers, and the game ends immediately on turn 1 without you getting to take a turn. So the worst thing for Pokemon is not being able to take a turn, just sitting there and not being able to do anything. Those are the worst losses. And those are at just such an extremely high rate in this format that it made the format really unfun for people. Just complete crapshoot of skillless nonsense. So Wizards caught on to this pretty fast. Even them, they were pretty dense, don't get me wrong. But even they caught on to it at some point, and they're like, you know what, we should probably do something about this. So they had one of their very few good ideas, and they introduced a format called Prop 15-3. What Prop 15-3 was an attempt to deter all these massive trainer go through your deck crazy things and put some spice, some variety back into the game. You know, even if you get rid of all the going through the deck stuff and the turn oneing, you still have the old problems of Lick a Tongue and super energy removal and scoop up where you could just, you know, never do much. So Prop 15-3 was introduced, and what it is you can only have 3 copies of a card other than basic energy in your deck, 3 maximum copies instead of 4, and a maximum of 15 trainers. So by limiting to 15 trainers, we stopped all this Erica, Wrath, super energy removal nonsense that was plaguing the game. And now you have a large variety of Pokemon you can play. All those things that were unplayable because, they just super it and then they tongue wrap and then they scoop up. All those things that were unplayable because of that are now pretty playable. A lot of decks open back up. It's probably one of my top 3 formats to play because you can play like Erica's decks, Brock's decks, Psychic Gengar decks, Fire Arcanine decks, just anything you want. You can actually play your favorite Pokemon in this format and make it work, which is really cool. A couple decks I have made for this. Let's see. I have a 15-3 Brock deck. This is a Clefable, Golbat, Primeape, Dodrio deck. You know, you would never see that in a regular game, but you see it here. Another one I have is kind of a fighting Wigglytuff deck. Clefable, Hitmonchan, Scyther, Wigglytuff. You know, just a large variety of things. And it's really good. It was a really good idea. And this is, you know, we play our weekly tournaments, and this is one of the ones that everybody shows up to. We really enjoy this one. You know, Mondays struggle. Sundays, EXs are always great, but you know, the Tuesdays, Prop 15-3 have really been taken off. Great format, a lot of fun. So let's get into the top lists for Prop 15-3. There's so many viable decks that I want to get into all of them. So let me just go into my quick top 5 trainers and top 5 Pokemon for 15-3. We're not going to talk about top lists for the unlimited one because that's just flipping a coin. The number 1 card is heads on a coin. That's what that format is. So we'll talk about Prop 15-3. And let's start with the trainers. Number 5, I'm not going to pull up the pictures. We all know these ones. It's not anything out of the ordinary. Number 5 is Item Fighter. Item Fighter was number 1 for the longest time, but it's dropping down to number 5 in this format because we're limited to 15 trainers. So there's a lot less stuff that you can get back. Pretty obvious. Number 4, Super Energy Removal. Still a very good card. Even though they're playing like 24 energy in a deck now, it's still good because it'll get you that turn where you can just, you know, do something big after supering their response on the bench, and then they can't really do anything. Still very powerful even in this format. Number 3, Pokemon Trader. I don't think I've shown you Pokemon Trader before, so let's look at that one. I'm sure you all know what it does, but we haven't blown it up yet. Trade one of the basic Pokemon or evolution cards in your hand for one of the basic Pokemon or evolution cards from your deck. Show both to your opponent, shuffle your deck afterwards. So, just trade a Pokemon for a Pokemon. In 15-3, Pokemon are king. You know, in the unlimited formats, trainers are kings. In this one, Pokemon are king. Whoever gets their Pokemon out probably going to win. Whoever gets their theme, you know, their little combo. So we want to be consistent. We want to play the most cards that allow us to get these Pokemon out. And Pokemon Trader will simply get you one of the Pokemon you need. There's like 20-something Pokemon in every deck. You're running multiple evolution lines. It's going to be tough to pinpoint and just draw off the top of your deck the exact one you need. So you need cards that help you get those Pokemon. Number 2, comp search. We all know computer search. Discard 2 cards from your hand, search for any card in your deck. Same exact concept. You need to be able to pinpoint that evolution that you need at the time. Again, you're going to have lots of evolution lines going in this format, so you're going to need to pick out the one that you currently have active or that you need to respond to your opponent's threat. And comp search lets you get that, or it lets you get number 1, Professor Oak. Draw is king in this format. Discard your hand, draw 7. That's going to give you a good shot to get the Pokemon that you need, the energy that you need, the Pokemon Trader, the comp search. Oak is definitely king in this one. Top 5 Pokemon. Number 5, Fossil Muck. Oh. So given the large variety of stuff in this format, there's a lot of Pokepower decks sneaking in there. Namely Dodrio. Dodrio is the big one. A lot of people use that card. But also Rain Dance has been trying to get in there. Some Dark Vileplume decks in there. So we have Muck. Ignores all Pokemon powers other than Toxic Gas while it's in play. You know, you have so much room for Pokemon because you're limited to 15 trainers. You have a lot of room for Pokemon. So if you're not running any Pokepowers, there's no reason not to just throw like a 2-2 Muck line in there to just, you know, have a counter to a lot of the big major decks in the format. Muck is very popular because there's space for it and it's actually useful in this format. Number 4, Hitmonchan. We're all the way back to Hitmonchan. Scyther is a lot less prevalent because the whole only 3 double colorless now and lack of plus powers. So it's like slashing for 30, but it's not really hitting that 70 number, which turns it into 3 slashes for a knockout. It lost a lot of power. So Hitmonchan gains in the sense that Scyther is a lot less powerful. It loses that Dodrio is a lot more powerful, but it then super gains later on when we get into the top 2 because the top 2 are both not only weak to fighting, but number 1's basic is disastrously weak to Hitmonchan. We'll get there in a second. Before we do that, number 3, Dodrio. Oh, that's not how you spell Dodrio. Dodrio. Retreat aid. As long as Dodrio is benched, pay colorless less to retreat your active Pokemon. Rage, 3 colorless. 10 plus 10 more for each damage counter on it. Free retreat, fighting resistance, lightning weakness. Pretty standard stuff. Really good in this format because a lot of decks spread damage. Like that Golbat deck spreads damage. There's no plus power, so if they got something doing 30, you could just send up Dodrio, let them 30 it, no problem, and then retreat later on, and now you've got this Rage for 40 or more threat going on later in the game. You know, it's not like this Gust knockout thing. There's not too much lightning, so Dodrio is a very, very good attacker. It lets you retreat your stuff for less, and you're going to be doing a lot of retreating, conserve that energy. Top tier card in this format, Dodrio, very good. Top tier card in the Unlimited pre-gym, actually, too. You know, Dodrio is a very underrated card in Pokemon history, but in this format, it really shines. Number 2, Wigglytuff. Again, with the lack of energy removal, super energy removal, gust of wind, all that stuff, you know, we're limited to 15 trainers. Wigglytuff essentially just becomes this big 80 hit point thing that is just 3 energy 60, and that's really hard for anything to deal with. The Wigglytuff decks can still fit some plus powers in there, you know, and a lot of times your opponent's planning about you not having the plus power. So when they sneak that in, they sneak in that 71 hit knockout, and your Dodrio, your Hitmonchan, it can be really devastating, and things can go downhill for them really fast. Just a really powerful Pokemon again. Wigglytuff, number 1 in the Rocket, number 2 here. It's just a great, great Pokemon once it gets its tools. You know, it started out slow in Jungle, it didn't have all the stuff it really needed to be top tier, but then after Rocket hit, it just never looked back. It's always a top tier Pokemon until Neo. Number 1, Clefable. So the thing in this format is, due to the variety, people are playing a lot of these big, clunky, high damage things. They're like, oh, finally, I'm not going to get super energy removal, so I can put my 4 energy on my favorite Pokemon and just have a lot of fun. But then Mr. Clefable shows up and says, hey, I'm going to copy that attack for 1 energy. Big enemy here, or big guy that gets countered by this is Rocket Zapdos. People love Rocket Zapdos. It's the coolest Haymaker Pokemon. 1 Lightning, 20. Then you can Electro Burn for 70, that perfect number for 4 energy. Oh, guess what? Gust of Wind, 1 energy, 70. You're knocked out. I take 0 damage because it's not a lightning energy. And yeah. Clefable is just the counter to all these big, huge things. Do the Wave for 1 energy, 60. Rocket Zapdos, 1 energy, 70. Arcanine, 1 energy, 80. Just all these absurd things that, you know, when people get that big threat that they finally been working all game to build up, you copy it for 1 energy. And that's just far and away crazily good in this format. The counter to this is Hitmonchan, but even with Hitmonchan, you know, if they knock something out and you lead Clefable, you can 1 energy 40 and get the 40 on them first. And then when they jab you, you knock them out. And they need another Hitmonchan, number 2 of 3 maximum, to come get Clefable back. The problem with Clefable, and why Hitmonchan is so high on the list, is its basic, Clefairy. Now when we play this, we are not playing with the vending machine sets. So we are stuck with this guy, this 40 hit point, weak to fighting basic with one of the worst 1 energy attacks in the game and a 3 energy metronome. So you can do the math here. 40 hit points, weak to fighting. What happens? Jab. 1 fighting, knocks out Clefairy. So oftentimes you'll bench the Clefairy, hoping to get that Clefable out next turn, and they'll say, bad news, Gust of Wind, jab, later. So that's the downside of Clefable. Not a lot of downsides, but that's the big one, is Clefairy right here. And that's why Hitmonchan is really high on the list, because Clefable's so good that having Hitmonchan to just knock out the Clefairy instantly is a very big deal. And then also, you know, put a 2nd energy on it and threaten the 80 against Wigglytuff, you know. Good stuff for Hitmonchan. But Clefable is still, hands down, the number 1. Alright. That is my rant on Gym and Prop 15. Again, sorry I hadn't done a video in a while. Things were a little hectic down here in Florida, and I just really didn't know what approach I wanted to do with the Gym series. If I wanted to do the first one, if I wanted to do the second one, if I wanted to combine them, combine the formats. But this is what we got, so enjoy it. Shining Fates, for you modern people, Shining Fates is coming out this week, and I think I'm going to do a little opening on Shining Fates. I got some stuff coming in the mail. I made it through the Pokemon Center bots and got a few things off there. I got some stuff from Safari Zone. I might have GameStop stuff coming. So I'm going to try and do my first opening this week on the channel, some Shining Fates. So look out for that. I'll make an announcement on the Twitterverse or the Instagram, whatever, when that's happening. Probably just Facebook, to be honest. I'm a Facebook guy. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, like, comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, anything to show the love. I'm out of here. Peace.